All right, we're live. Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Sunday morning here in sunny Southern California. We have today the highs are 70 degrees with a low of 56, partly cloudy, and rain tomorrow. Apparently, a super mega cyclone bomb or something moving over Northern California, so that should be very terrifying. I'm hoping that we don't have too many landslides up there in the burned areas. So we'll see how that goes. But thank you, everyone, for joining. And we'll get started. We've got a couple amazing guests here today and a lot to talk about. So thank you and good morning. I'm Margot Pies, your friendly co host. I'm a scientist and engineer. And over just below in the on this side down here, I'm giving him a pat on the back. That's Carlos Marroquin, your other amazing co-host. He's a wonderful grassroots organizer and just an all-around swell guy. We have two amazing guests, but before I introduce them, I just want to remind you that if nobody watches the show, well, we don't mind talking to ourselves, but it's always great to have an audience. So if you like what you see, please share it with your friends, your neighbors, your family members. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button. And we simulcast on Facebook and YouTube, Bernie Sanders Brigade page, and on Inside Out News. Just hit those buttons and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. We're here every Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern. So, just would like to introduce our guests. We have Hania Jodat Barnes. She's the former founding member of the Women's March LA, an author, co-founder of Muslim Delegates and Allies, national director of PDA Middle East Alliances, and Michelle Verne, president of the Feel the Burn San Fernando Valley Democratic Club, and a strong advocate for mental health. So thank you both for joining us. It's such a pleasure to have you. Carlos, please tell us a little bit more about our amazing guests.
Yes, well, good morning, everybody, from the not so sunny California here in Los Angeles. But it is always a pleasure to be with you and to greet you and just to bring some good guests to our broadcast. No doubt today is going to be very interesting because uh, there's two powerful women that are working on the ground here in not only Southern California but throughout the state, and sometimes they take it at a national level. So we're gonna have a lot to talk about, but very special guest, Michelle Byrne. She's with Feel the Burn Democratic Club in San Fernando, and she's an outstanding woman all the way around. And look, we have a lot to talk about, but I want them to talk about their work themselves. But definitely, we want to bring them on in a few minutes so that they can share their stories and share what they're doing. Uh, but right now, we also need to cover some of the important things that are affecting all of us. And we know that there are uh, some major fights taking place in Washington. We want to be able to cover that a little bit. Go ahead, Margaret, and maybe we can get into some of that discussion right away because we want to give our guests the most of the time today.
Absolutely, Carlos. Well, I mean, it's still sort of where we left off last week, where we still do not have the reconciliation bill passed. We don't have the infrastructure bill passed, and all that has to do with the negotiations or really the gridlock within the Democratic Party due to corporate interests. So it seems that this reconciliation bill has now been cut down to about $2.1 trillion to $2 trillion now. I think, that's like half of what they had intended to spend on that legislation. And some things that I know so far that we've lost instead of having 12 weeks off paid leave, it's been cut down to 4 weeks. I guess you could say 4 weeks is better than no weeks, but I think anyone who who has had a child or who knows someone who has had a child, that 4 weeks is definitely not enough to get yourself adjusted to the new baby. So it's pretty crazy. Biden did a town hall recently on CNN, and he was asked about Kristen Sinema, the senator from Arizona, and he, said, "Oh, she's smart as the devil," and I'm not sure what that means, but apparently, she's all for the environmental side of the legislation. Yay, climate change, but she does not like the idea of raising taxes on corporations or rich people. So I ask, how do you pay for these things if you don't raise taxes? You're just going to print more money? That's not a great solution, but that sounds like that's the direction that they're going. And of course, we have Joe Manchin, the senator from Virginia, who is a coal baron. He's got millions of dollars invested in coal companies, so he's completely within a conflict of interest here. But he's King Joe Coal Baron Manchin, King Coal Manchin, and he's planning to meet with Biden and Schumer, I think, this week to discuss more about the environmental side. And I wanted to mention an article that David Sirota wrote recently. He's an amazing investigative journalist, worked on the Bernie Sanders campaign. He highlighted how much the media has given clout to these two senators, and basically, framed this as like a battle between these moderates and what the environmentalists want. When the reality is that if we don't even take these small steps on climate change, we're really in deep trouble. We're already in trouble as it is. So we have to pass something. We have to get a little bit to start going in the right direction. But if we allow a guy who has such an immense conflict of interest run the show, then we're really putting ourselves and future generations in a situation that is just unimaginable and horrifying. So, and I say unimaginable because there's a lot of things going on in the climate that we don't completely understand. We have a sense of what tipping points are. We can identify them, but we don't know really when they will happen, if we'll reach them in this decade or after this decade. So by framing the discussion so disconnected from the reality of the effects of not passing this legislation is really a crime against humanity, because you're just sentencing an entire planet to a horrible future. So I really hope that the worst doesn't come with this legislation, but the fact that they're negotiating between Manchin and Biden does not make me feel very enthusiastic about what's going to show up in the news later this week. Carlos, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Right. Yeah. Make sure that give the opportunity to our guests to jump into any of this conversation, because all of us. But here's the important thing that we need to know. This coming bill is likely not to be the bill that was proposed for the $3.5 trillion. It's going to be a watered down bill. And the things that we learned from this is several things. That the Democratic Party has no supermajority as everybody think they do. They don't. We have centrist people pretty much dictating the tone that the Biden administration will pursue. He has, I hate to say it, but President Biden has no say in this thing, because otherwise he would have been leading the way. We have two centrist senators that are pretty much calling the show here. It is a tragic mistake. It shows the weakness of the Democratic Party. But for us as progressive, what we learn from this is that we need to stay focused. We don't get discouraged. We don't look down. We don't throw the towel. We keep moving forward. That's what's important, because we have accomplished much, and there's much more that needs to be accomplished. Senator Bernie Sanders is doing his part as a senator. There's only so much they can do. The squad is doing what they can do. Yes, we can demand more of them, and we should. We should be able to be firm in what we think they should be doing. But all of us have to be doing our part. That means you, me, we all do our part, and it starts at the ground level. It starts locally. It starts with our state. Then we can put all the things into perspective. But what do you guys think, ladies? Please give us some of your thoughts regarding the bill that most likely will be a watered down bill that we're gonna get.
Um, um, it'll be a watered down bill, but something to think about is I believe they're going to shorten the years and time length, right? So I try to think that maybe once these things pass, you know how when you give people something, you can't take it away, right? That that they'll extend it right after this 5-year plan that was once a 10-year plan. I think they're thinking of shortening it, cutting down the money and shortening the time span, which would be better because, like I said, when you give people something, it's hard to take it away, right? That's one thing that gives me a little hope. But like Carlos said, it is very imperative for us to support the progressive candidates. We have to support them. We have to realize that the media is the establishment media is going to do everything in their power to break us up. They're part of that breakup. They say things on the media like, we don't even know what's in the bill, right? They say things to not provide hope, right? It's almost like they don't want it to pass either. So I try not to focus on that and try to focus on reaching the people and getting everybody to fight. And because the struggle continues, as long as money's in politics, this is how it's going to be. That's how it is. And the struggle always continues. We can never give up, ever. Our ancestors didn't. We can't we can't let them down and just give up. So, I mean, that's where I'm at with it. I'm hoping, and what I've been hearing recently is that they're going to have to get rid of the filibuster. So, and they've been talking about it, and I'm hoping that happens. So, and there's other legislation also on the table, right? Voting legislation. I mean, so, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking right now. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they get rid of the filibuster.
Yeah. Hania, you go ahead.
Oh, no, thank you so much. You said something, Margot, that was very important and critical in this dialogue, is that the question that we always are faced with is that how are we going to pay for some of these programs and initiatives that move the country towards progression, right? And again, kind of looking back at the word progressive, that means moving an agenda forward towards a better outcome. And I think one of the things that we also have to realize is that, our military spending is now at $770 billion plus, and they continue to add on to it. And we know for a fact that military is the number one polluter in the world, right? That's a fact, right? We know that. But it's also very important to note that, the projected military spending that has been determined for the next decade versus the reconciliation bill that we're continuing to water down to profit the people of color mainly in this country is maybe about 4.8 trillion more than what the reconciliation bill is asking for. So what that says that as a democratic state, as a democratic country, what we're leading with is war and not the profit of the people, in particular and mainly people of color. So I think at this moment in time, it is extremely crucial for us to not only make sure that our congressional members are aware of our frustration, but pushing senators by calling, emailing, writing to them. I think these are campaigns that the grassroots progressive movement has mastered thus far. We've been able to put the pressure on many legislations, but also, again, to your point, Michelle, is And Carlos, when you mentioned supporting progressive candidates that are running is incredibly critical. I do feel that sometimes, because we do have some losses and we've had some major wins, the losses tend to kind of slow the momentum at a point where we feel like, we're not making a difference, are we? I find myself sometimes dealing with that internally. Am I making a difference? In fact, is what I'm doing the right thing? But I think making sure that the progressive candidates that are running for Congress, for assembly, for city council, even school board are provided for, protected and funded and highlighted and uplifted. I think that's very critical in order for the progressive movement to have any momentum, right? So again, going back to how do we pay for it? We can pay for it. We have the money to, right? Reduce the military spending and put it back into the people and infrastructure. There's no reason why our military Pentagon budget is 10 times more than the next 10 country combined, including Russia, China, and Iran. So those are some key things to consider.
Hani, yes, a couple of things here. You've been, because we didn't really do a formal introduction of you and the work that you are doing. You're from Iran.
I am.
And yes, and pardon me?
I am. I was just agreeing
and
with
you've been
you.
doing such a tremendous work. Yes, you're doing such a tremendous work, and you've been really traveling also in other parts of the country, especially helping Nina Turner during her recent campaign. Tell us about that work. Tell us about your community, because yes, we're talking about infrastructure, we're talking about Biden bill, but there is so many things that involves everything that's happening in right now, including the Muslim community. We're talking about the work within our communities locally, but you're on the ground, so you have a lot to say. And maybe one of these days we bring your own shit so that you can share all this. But let's bring it home a little bit more. Talk to us about your work a little bit.
Yeah. So coming from that region of the world, and being born in Iran, which is really at the center of some of the largest conflicts in the Middle East, and has been vilified for such a long time, has been my inspiration to push back against some of the propaganda that is often led by our popular culture, our media, and so on and so forth. So for me, having been raised, I was a little baby and very little when the war of Iran and Iraq ended, and I remember the trauma that came after the war. Many mothers lost their sons. Many homes were completely demolished due to bombs. And we lived through the aftermath economically as a country, being in a war for 8 years. And much of that was due to, again, certain states and allies of the US pressuring Iraqis to invade and combat, right, the Iranians. And when you really look at it now, when you talk to Iraqis who are living in America, they don't even know what the war was about. But it lasted for 8 years, right? And that's all we know. And so much of that, and the rise of Trump's form of supremacy in this country, which has been embedded in the history of the US. We're not going to deny that. And we can talk about that again for an entire hour or even decade, when it comes to marginalization of our Asian communities and Mexicans, natives, and Blacks, and so on and so forth. But the voice that Trump gave to the rise of supremacy and brought it back out again for us to see, that was my inspiration to get involved. And that was really just to protect my own family. I wasn't even looking at a broader picture of maybe getting involved in politics to shift legislation. I just wanted to protect my auntie who wears the hijab, to make sure that she is not a subject to hate crime. And we know that um, anti-Islam, Islam sentiments and Islamophobia was really funded, and it was uplifted after 9/11 through our media and news and movies and so on and so forth. So we lived through that trauma for a long time. That became my inspiration to fight for my people and challenge some of these policies. But one thing in the conversations that we've had with our family that I recognized is that they always say, no matter who we vote for, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, things will never change in the Middle East. And that is so accurate.
Right.
Right. So, yeah.
Right. And the reason why I wanted to bring you on right now and say this is because there's two things happening here, and what we need to understand what's happening. We have a domestic agenda and we have a foreign agenda, and so far they both have been a failure to the Biden administration. So while we all have our attention on the domestic agenda that will produce very little, we have equally a foreign agenda that has produced very little. You know what I mean? The Biden administration needs to wake up, because the end result of this will be more of the same, not only more of the same, but it's an invite to the conservatives to be more aggressive comes 2022 and 2024. And that was the point that I wanted to make. And I commend you for the hard work that you are doing. You being out there on the ground, and we only have heard just the beginning of all the amazing work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Carlos. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Carlos, were you going to say something?
No, we good.
Oh, okay.
No,
that was
thank you. Yeah, Carlos. So kind of going, briefly on some of the work I've done in terms of, politics, especially on the ground. What I, through my work with the Lift the Sanctions campaign that was launched a few months ago, we were able to shift some policies and Biden administration provided some relief to Iran, Syria, as well as I'm failing to remember Venezuela, but those are briefly just to get COVID vaccination and so on and so forth. But the work that I've done on the ground in terms of congressional campaigning, much of that began really with our organization, Muslim Delegates and Allies, doing voter outreach in Georgia, right, to make sure that we flip Senate to benefit the Democratic Party. And so what I recently got back, excuse me, from Cleveland, having worked with Senator Nina Turner's campaign, which was really an honor of a lifetime for me. I never really thought in a million years that that's where my career would lead me, to go to Cleveland and be in Ohio, see the poverty and see the love that is just so tremendously, I can't even put in words, that the campaign provided to me and Senator Nina Turner to her people. And so I worked with the campaign. I went to Cleveland as a surrogate to mobilize and bring together the Muslim population. I ended up extending, and I stayed for 3.5 weeks towards the very end of the campaign. And much of my focus was to mobilize the Muslim community and turn out the vote, and just really making sure that my community and the AAPI community that is often left out of the discussion when it comes to voting politics, as if their vote and voices don't matter, are a part of building, this congressional momentum where we elect Senator Nina Turner and we send her to Congress, because we know that the more that we add to the squad, and I've always joked with her and said, you are the squad. In a way, you are that voice that even sometimes the squad may be needing, in terms of support. So that is the work that I did, just to mobilize my community And we were very successful at, for the time that we were afforded, to bring some of the leaders together, start the dialogue of how important it is for Muslims in Cleveland to get involved. And we had some wonderful surrogates that we were working with that were flying in, Attorney General Keith Ellison of Minnesota, as well as Dr. Cornel West, who came in and really uplifted the Muslim community at one of our events. And so, but when we were campaigning, I also did find myself inserting in different aspects of the campaign life, which I'm sure Michelle, you can attest to this, is that when you get involved in a campaign, your day-to-day life is really not, you just get in and do whatever is needed. And that also included knocking on doors, which was by far one of my best experiences, because you get to hear from the voters who determine the outcome of an election, and you get to hear their concern. And one of the things that is very important to realize is that people in Cleveland are just as much in need, and even more, of the progressive policies as we are in California, right? And I want to say supposedly a progressive state, because we do have some dark history here in the state as well. But anyway, don't have time for that to talk about that. So that was my work in Cleveland, and yeah.
What are some highlights from your work working on the Nina Turner campaign? Like any particular interactions you had with community members, or something that, like, a major takeaway that you got from participating in the campaign? What's something that you could share with our audience?
Yeah, I had the opportunity for the first couple of days to be with the senator and her team as she knocked on doors. And usually during these door knocking events, we had state senators with us, we had city council members with us who supported her and her agenda. And the love was just, the love of Nina for her people, as well as how much she was embraced by her community, was just really touching to me. I remember one day we were canvassing one of the streets, and this lady was running with her child in her arm, and she was breathing really hard. She stops in front of the senator, and she's like, "Oh my God, I just saw your live, and I noticed that you're in my neighborhood. And I just wanted to run to you to let you know how much I adore you and how much you mean to us in this space and at this moment in history," which she does. I mean, she is one of the most powerful women I've ever met in my life. I still get tongue-tied when I'm in her presence, because she gives so much of that. Her energy is just beautiful, right? And sometimes I find myself not knowing what to say, or and but she's maternal, she's powerful, she cares, and when she cares deeply, as if she's carrying the pain of her people on her shoulders, right? And just to kind of concentrate on some of the interactions with my community members and her, the way they were embraced by her, and the way they embraced her messaging, was just very life-changing. So those were some of my experiences working on the ground. And of course, AOC's visit, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, when she came, and the love of people, the progressives in Cleveland, and for her, and the way we were able to mobilize and knock on hundreds of thousands of doors, even that day, just through the grassroots volunteers. It just tells me that there's a desire for change. Now it's more highlighted and uplifted. And what a big responsibility we have as, I don't want to call myself a community leader because I'm not, but as people who may have a bit of influence on our surroundings, to make sure that we're inspiring these voices to continue the fight, right? So those are some of my highlights from the campaign, I would say, that'll always stay with me throughout my life.
Thank you. And just to also bring in Michelle as well, you both have worked on campaigns, and Carlos and myself as well. What do you think makes a successful progressive political campaign for office? Because, we have some wins, we have some losses, and I think it's important for our audience to know what makes a successful campaign, especially if somebody who's watching is inspired enough to try to run for a local office themselves. So I'm just wondering if the two of you could maybe share your thoughts on, based off of your experience, and what makes a successful campaign, and if there's some kind of basic blueprint that somebody may be able to follow if they want to run for office too.
Oh, that's really a hard question. I haven't really worked on campaigns for actual individual candidates, but right now we are working really hard on policy campaigning with AB 1400. I think thinking outside of the box is major, very major. I think having people around you that you can trust is also very critical. Also, people that are willing to accept ideas from every person, every point, and bring those ideas together. I think creativity really needs to be more involved. I'll just give you an example. So when Bernie was running, we used every creative idea possible that we could think of. So now we're using those same ideas to campaign for AB 1400. So we decided to create light boards for AB 1400. They say AB 1400 and do you CalCare? Because our whole goal is to reach out to the community and make them aware of this bill. And also to let the legislators know that we're here fighting for this and we're not giving up. You can keep shelving the bills, you can keep whatever, but we're not going away. So, and I also believe that it should be, you should tackle everyone from neighborhood councils all the way to the top. You should invade your neighborhood council meetings, go in there and talk about what you want. You should, all of it has to be done. So just for an example, Bob Blumenfeld, who's the city council member here in my district, who Yasmin Pomeroy is running in the midterms against. This is the first time anyone's really ever challenged him. He's been in that seat for quite a while. So he holds this firework extravaganza in the San Fernando Valley, west side of the San Fernando Valley, every year. And last year, when COVID started, he wasn't able to do it. They canceled it. But last year they had it. And we got all the volunteers from the club together, and we took the light boards to the firework extravaganza in hopes that Bob would see them and see us. And what happened was we passed out flyers on CalCare to everybody that was there. We had a QR code to where people can go to sign a petition. It was a complete success. Everybody was into it. Everybody wanted to know about it. People had questions. We tried to draw attention any way we could, screaming out, guaranteed healthcare for all. And all of a sudden I'm walking and I see Bob and I meet him eye to eye. And I say, "Are you for guaranteed healthcare for all?" I knew who he was. Just wanted to see what he would say. And he said, "Are you kidding? Yes, I've been fighting for it for 10 years and on and on." And I said, "Bob, I know who you are, right?" And I said, "But have you heard of AB 1400? Have you heard of CalCare?" He said, "No." And I said, "Are you kidding me?" And I gave him all the information. And I said, I'm the president of Field of Burn. We have 20 California state delegates, 14 LACDP committee members, and we are going to fight our butts off for this bill. We are going to go to all your constituents in the neighborhood and make sure that they're aware of it. And just as he started saying, "I'm sorry," or apologizing because he didn't know about it and that he was so busy, we were just passing the light boards, and I said, well, look, and I showed him the light boards, and I said, our volunteers made these light boards and are out here campaigning for this policy, and they work every day. They have jobs, you know, and we're fighting for this, and we want you to fight for it too. And he's like, I'm going to fight for it, and, you know, promise me all this stuff. And then 2 days later, I contacted him by email, and, you know, told him again who I was, told him what we were going to do. And then I got a response within 24 hours from his chief of staff saying, we're going to fight for it. We're going to help you. You know, we'll keep in contact. So a month later, I find out that they're putting the bill on the LA City Council agenda. And I was going to contact to make sure, you know, that they knew it was on the agenda, but I wanted to wait and see if they contacted me first. And kid you not, 24 hours after I found out it was on the agenda, they contacted me and they said, it's on the agenda and please come to the meeting. And, you know, we're going to fight for this. And I was like, wow, I was shocked. And I was like, okay, you know, never told them I knew. I went to the meeting and Bob talked on he commented on it and it passed. So, not saying that Bob's perfect. He's not. He votes against many things that I'm for. He just voted on a rent moratorium. He voted, you know, in opposition of it. So I'm not for many things that he does, but this is what I'm talking about. You gotta meet them right where they are, and you've got to, you know, do whatever you can, any creative way that you can think of to do this. Us sticking together and doing this, it'll change things. But if we fall apart and we you know, let the establishment break us apart like they're trying to do, and using every means to do so, including in, you know, attacking social media and, you know, trying to infiltrate and everything that they're doing. If we don't stick together and tune that totally out, it's going to destroy us. And right now is critical, and it's the most important time to determine whether or not we're going to remain a democracy or whether or not we go into fascism. And people might think that that's, you know, oh my, that would never happen. No, you know, that's what other countries have said, and it's happened there. So,
Honey, this is really important what she's saying. You know, the involvement at the local level and the work that you're doing amongst other people that are doing that work as well. We have some very exciting news here in Southern California because we have a national leader in Nina Turner. She's being, you know, she's been out there fighting for these very issues that we care about. Pretty much, I call her a national hero because she's fighting at every level possible. She goes up and she travels all over the place, bringing that voice, you know, that is much needed. I understand that she's coming to Southern California again to be with us. Any of you care to tell us a little bit about that and why this actually is important to us here? Because again, the fights that we are involved in.
Can I just really quickly interject to highlight and uplift my sister Michelle here? Because Michelle, I got to tell you, I got a little bit emotional when you were speaking just now, and if people have not already become a member of Feel the Burn, your Feel the Burn, which I hope that you plug it in for us, for everyone to become a member of. But that meeting that we had, I have to say, I participated in one. I felt like I was a part of your family. We had fun. We played music. So kudos to you for bringing that element of, you know, art and organizing and creativity into it. So I just want to give you a shout out on that. Also, I'm more than happy to talk about it briefly, and I'll have Michelle talk about also what we've been working on. when I was told that Senator Turner will be in town, she is traveling. Obviously, she's been traveling all over the nation to support some of our progressive candidates, including India Walton in Buff, who's running against Byron Brown for mayor, for a mayoral position. She was just there, and shortly after, Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Cortez, was in Buffalo to uplift India Walton's message. Wonderful candidate, strong and just all around a true progressive. But when Senator Turner will be making her way to California, she'll be awarded in Northern California, the Harvey Milk Foundation. And I was contacted to see what we can organize here for her in Southern California. And again, that's an honor of a lifetime to be placed in that position. I immediately thought about a few people to contact. One of, whom was Michelle Verne, because I've heard so much about her commitment to the progressive movement and just all around being a good woman and a good human being. And I got to tell you this, Michelle, it's been a privilege to work with you in the past few weeks, or a week, I would say, that we have been, because I've learned so much from you. So that's just a testament to how truly powerful you are in your space as well. So I immediately contacted Michelle and I said, Michelle, we have a couple of options. And it took us 10 minutes to really brief each other on what's happening, and we just took off. And so on Friday night, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for opening your space to all of us to get together and meet and greet with Senator Nina Turner, who will be here on Friday and leaving Saturday evening. And Saturday night, actually. And so we will be celebrating her at Michelle's, who's my wonderful co-host, and Carlos has been great in contributing to this event, as well as Betty, Toto, and as well as I may be forgetting a couple of people. Michelle, I'm gonna bring you back in, but I'll hand this over to you. But yeah, those are some of what we're working on. Some meet and greets for her to kind of bring her back and allow for the progressives to ask questions and talk about what's next and strategizing around how we can support some of our progressive candidates across the country. So
yes, exactly. Oh my gosh. When I got that call from you, when we hung up, I screamed. But anyway, thanks so much for thinking of me. And ditto, I feel the same way about you. When we first met, it was like, I felt like I had already known you forever. So I cannot tell you how honored I am to have Senator Nina Turner at my home. My backyard happens to be ginormous. So that is why we chose my home to do it in. We will have food, drinks, it's going to be very grassroots oriented. We will also have a lot of candidates running in the midterms. Kenneth Mejia, Shervin Azami, who's running for Congress in my district. Ruth Levanos, who's running in 25. They're also all going to be in attendance and they're going to speak. I felt that that's very imperative to get all progressive candidates in the midterms here and together. Which another creative idea, a couple of our student volunteers are going to take PDI and go all around our neighborhood and invite them to the event so that they can see the candidates running in their neighborhood and get a chance to talk to them. So, but with Senator Turner, she's everything to me. I have been following Bernie for his entire career. I grew up in a very liberal family. So ever since 2015, when Bernie first ran, every single morning, it's been WWBD, and that's what would Bernie do all the time. I always question what would Bernie do, and also what would Nina do, because they're very similar. And that's how I organize every day. I think, what would Bernie do in these circumstances? And it literally gets me over everything. So to have Senator Nina Turner come here to my house, it is such an honor. And I feel that everybody who can come that is a progressive and it works in the grassroots and fights every day should come and celebrate with us, because we really need to take this movement forward. The struggle continues. It would be really great for all of us to get together. Some of us have never met each other in person, to get to know each other more and to collaborate, because soon we're going to be able to be out and we're going to be able to have boots on the ground, and we all need to get it together and do that. Door knocking is essential. It's always been number one in Feel the Burn San Fernando Valley. Door knocking, we've always made the most difference doing that, meeting people face to face and talking to them. Yeah, I'm just so excited for her to come, and every time I think about it, I cry. So I don't even, I can hardly even talk about it. But yeah, I don't even know what else to say. Just come,
Yeah.
and yeah.
I mean, Michelle, I got to tell you, I know I'll be wearing flats so I can walk around and dance and get to meet candidates. But I think what's really great, you just highlighted, is that there will be congressional candidates that will change and shift policy that we need to support. And they will be in the same space, having the opportunity to meet and greet with Senator Turner and all of you who are going to essentially be the ones voting for them. So it's critical to provide that support to the candidates, as well as just, again, reminding ourselves that even though we may have some losses, that we have each other's backs. Because I think one of the things that Bernie was so incredible at doing is uniting. I mean, for the very first time, the Muslim community was reached out to. And oftentimes during presidential candidates, we're the only diaspora that is almost vilified in some way and is used as a weapon for, no pun intended, to, kind of go between Democrats, what policy am I supporting or I'm against in a Muslim country that gets them votes with their voters and constituents. And so I feel like Bernie was the only one that said, I'm going to reach out to that sector of this country that has been so left out for so long and has not been a part of the conversation, while in the meantime, politicians have made such horrible mistakes in the Middle East to further their policies and money here. One of the things that I also wanted to mention is that most of our congressional candidates that are running, and even city council members, they're facing opposition. But when we talk about opposition, we're talking about corporate money that prevents us from having universal health care, that prevents us from having a Green New Deal, right? These are corporate lobbyists that will rather pour all of their money into vilification of a candidate that says, hey, I just want equity and equality for Black and Brown people and all. Right. So these are candidates that are combating that. Right. So for us to be there in their support, I think is very, very important and critical. So I look forward to seeing everybody on Friday. Yeah.
Yes. And unfortunately, money is still in politics. So yeah, we got to donate.
Yeah.
We got to donate, and we got to donate to all these candidates and lift them up and take them there. I'm not just going to say it's all about money. I've always lived by the Wu-Tang song, cash rules everything around me, but it doesn't rule me. So, right. It rules everything around me, but it doesn't rule me. Yeah. So, and as long as candidates are like that, I will support them. But once it starts ruling, money starts ruling them, that's a whole nother ballgame. So yeah, support, donate, come. What else can I say? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and join Feel the Burn San Fernando Valley. We're very action oriented and fun. You have to put fun in it. And yeah.
I just wanted to show this photo from the 2016 campaign just because of the topic. Because I mean, this seems like such a such a benign photo, right? Like, oh, he's just hugging a supporter, but But up until this moment, there had never been a politician on the national level at the presidential level who said, no, you are not an evil person because you're a Muslim, because you wear a hijab, because you worship at a mosque. No, you are a human being, and I am going to embrace you and highlight your humanity. So I just immediately thought that this image when you were talking, and I wanted to just remind everybody that this is the message of everything we're doing, that it's love, that it's community, that we're fighting together for each other in everything that we're doing, and we must always keep these tiny little gestures in mind, because they make a big difference in everybody's lives. So I just wanted to throw that out there and highlight that, because that really touched me. Like,
Yeah.
we need to just remember what happened during that campaign.
Yeah, and I think Carlos just hit the nail on the head when he said, quite often, we are so, involved in flawed domestic policies and changing that, towards the betterment of our, country, that we really sometimes almost don't realize that there is a foreign policy agenda that we have to equally pay attention to. And it is very unfortunate, because sometimes the resources that are afforded to America puts soldiers' boots on the ground in some of the countries that have been colonized for so long. And I use that term because it is just that. And I will say that I would encourage people to really, put the pressure on the military spending, put the pressure on, ending wars, put the pressure on banning all ground missiles and renewing our nuclear weapons. Because at the end of the day, while we are saying, oh, we ended the war in Afghanistan, we're still droning the country, right? These are some things that only the progressive arm of the Democratic Party is going to be able to challenge and combat. So let's set our differences aside. Let's get back up, dust our shoulders from whatever heavy dust is landing on it or sitting on it, and just continue to work and get these people. Because once they're in Congress, let's also push them to make sure that they understand we're the people who put them there, so they have to listen to what we say. So thank you for this image.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, and Michelle, you guys are doing such an important work, and you were correct, Hania, when you mentioned the focus back on Michelle and the work that she's doing with Feel the Burn. Both of you, in my opinion, are in the front lines, doing tremendous work in different levels, and in some cases at the same level, on different issues, and at the same time on the same issues. I commend both of you, brave women. You, Hania, you led the efforts, in organizing the Women's March. You were some of the first, literally the founder of the Women's March here, and eventually you moved on. But you, both of you, understand the struggles of being able just to continue to go forward, because sometimes the discouragements that come our way are pretty heavy and so intense, and sometimes it gets really hard to continue on this struggle. Just like I imagine, the things that Nina and none of us can ever understand that, but being able to run campaigns and then, not get the result that you expect. But then what encourages me is to see you brave women the next day get back out there on the front lines and do what you got to do, because you understand that this is not going to be a one-day fight. We're fighting here for long term, for many issues, just like our co-host Margaret. She's out there fighting for climate change, educating herself so she can be a voice, you know, as a a potential doctor on climate change and have all that knowledge. Look, we are just getting started. There's a lot beautiful things to come, but we have to get involved. We cannot give up. So this message goes to all the brave women and men out there that are doing great work. Don't give up, because our fight just has begun and we have a lot to conquer. Right now, this past week, I know this, that uh, our friends Haniye and Michelle and others have been working very hard in making this event coming up with Nina Turner the best possible events. How can people get involved? What do they need to do so they can come and meet Nina? Tell us.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that the beautiful link is at the bottom of your screen. So please RSVP and join us. We will begin, I would say, roughly around 6:30. And so I would encourage everyone to be there a little bit earlier if you can, because we know Friday traffic in Los Angeles is going to be heavy. So plan accordingly. I'm going to have Michelle talk about this. If you'd like to, Michelle, if there's a need for volunteers to help you with anything at the door, or we definitely do want to make sure that people are there checking people in, as it's going to be a great night. Bring layers with you, and COVID protocols are enforced because we want to make sure everyone's healthy, and we want to make sure that you're vaccinated, and as well as bring your masks with you because we want to ensure the safety. Michelle, anything else?
Well, first, shout out to Carlos. Carlos, you inspire me every day. We first met in 2015, I believe, briefly, but then when Bernie ran again, you were the first person I went to, and I was like, I'm in. Show me people in the valley, and you pointed directly to Betty, and I was like, that was it. That was all she wrote. We became Machete. So me and Betty are now Machete. We're slaying them dragons. So thank you so much, Carlos, for that. As far as the event, we're going to have portos. Everyone loves portos. So we're going to have speakers. And then after that, we're going to have dancing, some really great dancing and fun celebrating. Right? Yeah. As far as, I think that this will be great because since, like I said, COVID has kept us in for so long. I think that's been part of the discouragement. Like COVID has added to the discouragement. So if you come, I think that we'll all be like uplifted and be ready to, get boots on the ground again. And let's see, what else do I want to say? As far as volunteers, I can always use volunteers. Come and join us. I'll put you somewhere. Trust me. We do have door people so far, but I can definitely use more volunteers. So yeah, just go to the link, sign up, or come to the Feel the Burn website, and you can get a hold of us there, which is feeltheburnsfv.org.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, Margaret, I know we're running out of time, and I know our guests have a lot of work to do, so I want to keep it to 1 hour if possible. I like to dedicate this particular broadcast to an activist who passed away yesterday here in Los Angeles, General Jeff. He was an activist over in Skid Row. He was known as the mayor of Skid Row. Our hearts go out to all those that love him, those that knew him, those that he supported, the unhoused community over in Skid Row. So this program is dedicated to his memory. We want to send our love and our condolences to the family and to all those who knew him. I humbly would like to also say to you today that Despierta America, which is on Univision, did a special today on me. They actually let the program with my story. So I say that in a humble way because my story is your story. I just happen to be one of those persons that are out there on the streets, but there's many of us that are doing the same work, and they highlighted my work for the past 30 years, and including my retirement for the post office. So I want to give thanks and a shout out to Univision that did this today, this morning, leading the stories on Despierta America. So thank you for that. Don't forget that we have the upcoming Rose Parade. We're starting to organize that. This year is going to be climate change, the number one issue affecting all of us, and is pretty much the issue that has many issues within that issue. It affects everything that in our lives, including healthcare, housing, etc., etc. So mark your calendars. Don't forget, we have the upcoming Rose Parade. It's going to be one of those powerful events that we organize. So I'm bringing in a whole team of organizers to help us with that. Anything else, Margaret? That's it for me. I'm not going to say much more because we want to give our guests an opportunity to say their final words.
Well, thank you, Carlos. Thank you to our guests for joining us today. It was an absolutely phenomenal show. Thank you to our viewers for joining us on this Sunday morning. It's been an absolute pleasure. And just remember to tune in as always. So I don't have too many things to say today. I think our guests did such a wonderful job highlighting all of the important issues and points. So I would just love to let them go ahead and take the floor one last time before we sign off. So why don't we start with Michelle and then we'll move on. And go ahead, Michelle.
Okay. I lost the screen.
Oh. Hania, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, go, honey, and I'll
Sure. Just wanted to extend my gratitude really to Carlos for being an inspiration, not only as a community organizer, but as just a very amazing human being who has touched me in many ways. And Michelle Verne for really taking me in from Southern California to be a member of her club, as if I'm now the honorary member, with the rest of the team that makes the decisions behind the scenes. Margot, thank you so much for leading this conversation. And, and best of luck to you with everything that you do in your career. And just say that my only wish for our movement is to continue on the path of unifying. Even though times do get rough sometimes, I think it's critical for us to always stand together. What we go through. I'm surprised my son didn't make an appearance in Europe.
His dogs.
Yeah, Margot. Yeah, and I really look forward to seeing you all at the Friday evening event, and looking forward to building together on this path. And as we say not in Farsi, but si se puede.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
I totally agree with all of that, Hanai. And I'd like to say, I guess I'll quote Nina, where she says, "It is the duty of governments to create a pro-voter environment that encourages participation, but it is also the responsibility of citizens to make their voices heard." So let's get out there and make our voices heard, and come and join us at the event. And I'd like to give a shout out to the Feel the Burn San Fernando Valley e-board, because they are putting a lot of work into this too. That's Jason Small, Renee Rodriguez, Chris Shimizu, Betty DeMastoto, Kason Verne, Jessica Manabe, Chris Manabe, and I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. And that's it. And thanks so much, Margot, for having us on. Thanks, Carlos. And hope to see you guys Friday. Hope to see you, Carlos, Friday.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you both so much for being here with us. And we are out of time. And my dogs have rang the bell. They barked 3 times saying, we're out of time. So we have to go. But thank you again. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you to our guests. Thank you to my co-host, Carlos Maruquin. And as always, you've been watching Stand Up Fight Back, where we discuss strategy and analysis for the progressive movement. We air every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. So please tune in. Please hit that like button, the subscribe button, the follow button, etc. And always be here, because we will, and we love working with an audience. So I think that's it. Just please remember to wear a mask and get vaccinated, and we'll get through this pandemic very, very soon, I think. So thank you everyone so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and much love to everybody. Bye. So long.
Bye.